Welcome to Whispering Cabins, where the woods are quiet, the stories are eerie, and the night whispers just for you. Settle in and listen closely. Tonight, we tell the story of the Midnight Post Office. In the quiet town of Willowmere, there was a building that everyone knew but no one talked about, the post office on Lantern Street. It was small, a squat brick structure with a rusted flagpole and a faded sign that simply read, Post Office. By day, it appeared long abandoned. Dusty windows, locked doors, the occasional spider web trembling in the breeze. But at night, specifically at midnight, the doors opened. If you happened to walk by, and most townsfolk made sure they never did, you'd see a faint golden light shining from inside, and you might hear the soft rustle of paper or the creak of floorboards as if the building itself was stretching awake after a long sleep. Those who did go inside said the air smelled faintly of ink and lilacs. They said the walls hummed softly, and that behind the counter stood an old man in a navy uniform that seemed just slightly too crisp, as if it hadn't aged at all. He was known only as Mr. Finch. No one knew how long he'd worked there. Some said decades, others said since before the town was built. But his rules were simple. Mail is accepted only between midnight and dawn. You must write your own letter in the post office, using the provided pen and paper. You must mean what you write, because these weren't ordinary letters. They were written to, and sometimes from, the dead. Lydia Harper didn't believe any of it. At 29, she considered herself too practical for ghost stories. She worked at the library, lived in a tidy apartment, and spent her evenings cataloguing old town records for the local historical society. It was during one of these late-night research sessions that she stumbled across a curious note in an 1892 town ledger. Lantern Street Post, continued service under Mr. F. Finch, hours, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. That was over a century ago. Yet the name and the hours were the same. Intrigued, Lydia decided to see it for herself. She told no one, not even her best friend Clara, who would have talked her out of it. Just before midnight on a cold October night, Lydia slipped on her coat and walked through the sleeping streets. The moon hung low and orange, and her footsteps echoed against the cobblestones. When she reached the post office, the windows were glowing. Her pulse quickened. She pushed open the door, and a soft bell chimed. Inside, the place looked normal, cozy even. Shelves of envelopes, a wooden counter, a brass clock ticking softly. Behind the counter stood an elderly man with neatly combed white hair, his postal cap tilted slightly forward. "Good evening," he said. "You're just in time." His voice was warm, but it carried something else, an echo maybe. I just wanted to see if this place was real," Lydia said, feeling suddenly foolish. Mr. Finch smiled gently. "Most people come here for that reason the first time. Would you like to send a letter?" Lydia hesitated. "To who?" "To whomever you wish," he said, sliding a piece of parchment toward her. The dead read what the living write. The pen he handed her was heavy and cold. The paper smelled faintly of lilacs. For a moment, Lydia thought of her mother, who had passed 5 years ago. There were things she had never said. Apologies for missed calls. Words of love swallowed by pride. Her hand trembled as she wrote, "Mom, I miss you. I hope you're proud of me. I'm sorry for the things I said before you left. I didn't mean them." She sealed the letter, wrote Margaret Harper on the envelope, and slid it into the brass mail slot. Mr. Finch nodded approvingly. "It will be delivered by dawn." As she turned to go, Lydia glanced back and asked, "Do you ever get letters in return?" He smiled. just slightly too wide. Sometimes. The next morning, Lydia found an envelope on her doorstep. It was cream-colored, sealed with wax, and addressed in delicate handwriting she recognized instantly, her mother's. Inside was a short note. My dearest Lydia, of course I'm proud. Always have been. Keep writing, sweetheart. The post office is a kind place, but remember, some letters shouldn't be answered. A chill ran through her. She tried to tell herself it was a prank, Clara maybe, but she hadn't told anyone where she was going. The next few nights, she couldn't stop thinking about it. The post office, the warmth of the light, the smell of lilacs, the way Mr. Finch had looked at her, like he already knew everything she'd ever written. By the fourth night, curiosity won. At midnight, she returned. Back so soon, Mr. Finch said, smiling. I got a letter back, Lydia said softly, from my mother. He nodded, as if this were perfectly normal. And do you wish to reply? Lydia hesitated. Should I? That depends, he said. Do you have more to say? She did. Too much, perhaps. Words that had lived in her chest for years. She wrote until her hand cramped, until her tears blurred the ink. When she was done, she sealed the letter and handed it to him. Will she get it? Lydia asked. She already has, he said. That night, Lydia dreamed of her mother standing at the foot of her bed, smiling. She looked peaceful, but behind her, the shadows in the room pulsed faintly, like breathing. When Lydia woke, there was another envelope. This one was addressed to her again. But something was wrong. The handwriting was hers. She tore it open, heart pounding. Dear Lydia, you shouldn't have come back. Stop writing. It's not your mother anymore. Her blood went cold. The ink looked fresh, still damp. Her own handwriting, perfect down to the loops of her L's. She stared at it until her vision blurred, then shoved the letter into a drawer. But that night, the dreams returned. Only now, her mother wasn't smiling. Her eyes were dark and hollow, and her mouth opened wide, whispering in a voice that wasn't her own. Keep writing, Lydia. We're waiting. By the sixth night, Lydia couldn't take it anymore. She went back to the post office, determined to end it. The light inside was dimmer now, flickering. Mr. Finch stood behind the counter as always, but his uniform looked frayed, and his eyes seemed empty. I got a letter, Lydia said, slamming it down on the counter. From myself. He looked at it calmly. Ah, that happens sometimes. What does that mean? She demanded. He sighed. The midnight post office doesn't just send letters. It listens. It reads what's inside you. When you write too much, when you give too much of yourself, it begins to answer in kind. Lydia's throat tightened. You mean? He nodded. You've written yourself into the system. Behind him, the brass clock began to chime. 1, 2, 3. With each strike, the room dimmed further. The shelves rattled. Envelopes fluttered open like wings. Lydia stumbled back. How do I stop it? You can't, Mr. Finch said softly. But you can stay. She blinked. Stay? The light flickered again, and when it steadied, he was gone. In his place stood a small writing desk. On it sat a fountain pen, a blank sheet of lilac-scented paper, and a nameplate that read, Postmaster L. Harper. In the years that followed, the midnight post office continued its quiet service. The townsfolk still whispered about it, though none dared enter. But sometimes, if you passed by on a still night, You'd see a faint light in the window and the shadow of a woman sitting at a desk, head bowed, writing letters that never stopped coming. And if you listen closely, you might hear the bell above the door ring softly as someone new walks in to send their first letter. Always at midnight, always to the dead. Thank you for spending some time here at Whispering Cabins, where the light is low and the stories linger. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to subscribe or share with someone who loves a gentle chill before bed. Until next time, sleep well, if the night lets you.